last video, we left off on the south end of the 100 block of Huron Avenue on the west side, this building right here. And since that time, I've been able to verify that there was one other business at that location, and that was Bondi and Johnston Clothing Company. And in this 1891 city directory, it shows that it is the first store north of the bridge. And in that same city directory, they had this little ad right here: Bondi and Johnston, fashionable tailoring, perfect fit, and low prices. And we can show you what that time period looked like with this next picture here. This bridge that's pictured here is the Military Street Bridge. Not like any bridge that we've seen here. But back in those days, it was a swing bridge. It swung on a pedestal at the bottom in the middle of the river. And it would go around like this here, and the ships would pass, and then it would go back to the original position, and cars or horses and buggies could go back over it. This early photo shows a lot, not only the Military Street Bridge, but the types of ships that were in Black River at the time. And if you look in the background, you can see the steeple, the First Baptist Church. And to the left of that is the old Fort Huron High School, and it's like the first one. And then to the right of it is the St. Stephen's Church. You can just make out the steeple or tower on the church. And as we zoom in, we can see that the business that was located on this first building was Bondi and Johnston. And here you see the advertisement on the side of the wall here: Bondi and Johnston, clothing, tailoring, and it looks like it says dry goods as well. And if you look down the block, you can see the courthouse. See the bell tower, and also it looks like the original courthouse before they had the extensions put on it. I was completely done with this video, getting ready to post it to YouTube, and I discovered this photo here, and it's such a great photo I decided to redo the video and the sound and include it in here. It gives you a great look at the front of the building, and you can see a couple other things on this building as well. For example, the advertisement here on the second floor showing plush cloaks and ladies' mantles. And of course, not being the smartest kid in the block, I wasn't sure what a lady's mantle was, so I looked it up, and this is what it says. It's a loose, sleeveless cloak or cape. So pretty much like the first one. Remember that large sign on the side of the building, Schoolcraft Realty. And we talked about them having fire insurance as well. And you can see that they're located here on the second floor. And it talks about their fire insurance on that one side as well. But you can see here that Bondi and Johnston took over the whole first floor. So it's a pretty good sized establishment. And the folks standing in front of the store appear to be employees of the store, including Bondi and Johnston. The man standing on the right is Johnston, and the man standing on the left is Bondi, the owners. So like I said, this is a great picture. Alright, we've looked at both ends of the block. Let's see what's in between. This picture here, we can see that Fanny Farmer was on the left side, and next to that, Kellogg Corset Shop. Next to that, interior gift shop. The business starts with the letter P. I'm not sure what business it is though. And then of course there's Fox Jewelry on the corner. In this photo here, we can still see Fanny Farmer there and Kellogg Corset Shop. But the interior design place, the gift shop, has been replaced by My Place Restaurant. But back in the 1950s, when I was in high school, this is the block here that I remember. On the south end of the block was the cotton shop, but next to that was Pair of Millinery, specializing in women's hats. Here we have a photo of inside the shop during a fashion show. And the lady displaying this hat is not your normal model, but she is the first woman mayor of Port Huron, Ida Mae Reed. Here she is during a council meeting. Before paramilitary was here, there was a candy store here. No, not Fanny Farmer. It was Haviland Candy. A Port Huron product of purity and excellence. 600 kinds, all our own make. Fine chocolates, creams, pure sugar fruit tablets, old-fashioned pure sugar stick candy, caramels, every kind, usually found in an up-to-date store. Best ice cream in the city, no doubt of it. 103 Huron Avenue, second store north of the bridge. And before you say, I remember that store, this was back in 1900, so I don't think there's anybody watching this video that can remember that store. Next to paramilitary is Fanny Farmer. Fanny Farmer has actually been in a couple different locations in the same block. If you recall, this is where Kellogg Corset Shop was at one time, and Fanny Farmer was further south on this block. Paramilitary was also in two different locations in this block, once at 101 Huron and once at 105 Huron. So they switched around a couple different times. Next to Fanny Farmer was Arden's. Now, this is the location they were at before they moved further north on the opposite side of the block in the 200 block of Huron. And here we see what it looked like at night. To the left you can see Fanny Farmer's window is still lit up, and of course to the right is Fox Jewelry Store. In the 1940s, this is what it looked like. About the only stores you can see are mirrors and boxes, so you can't really see what's in between, but I can tell you what's in between. Next to Mirror's Drugs was Personality Studio, which I assume is a photography place. And then of course there was Fanny Farmer Candy Shop, and then Paramilitary, and then Arden's. In the 1930s we can see a couple of the businesses that were in the middle of the block. The one next to United Cigar Store was a Wonder Bar Grill. And then next to that was Runnels Jewelry and Watch Shop. You can see the large pocket watch just hanging outside just beyond the Wonder Bar sign. Here's a much better photo of that business. You can see it pretty clear. You can see the big pocket watch hanging outside it, and you can see the signage where it's advertising watches on the left and it has their own personal logo on the right. And you can see the storefront here. Runnels was there for a long time, all the way back to the early 1900s. As you can see from this photograph here, if you look to your right as we zoom in, you can see the hanging pocket watch. I also like this photo here too, because it shows the old ice wagon that used to come around and supply our ice boxes. I remember that well. Remember all the kids following the ice wagon trying to get slivers of ice from the Iceman. I realized that Runnels was a jeweler, but I never realized that he was an optician until I saw this ad. According to this, the fellow that worked for Runnels was the optician. It looks like C.D. Horton. The store right next to Runnels is the Apple Brothers tailoring shop. This was a very small store, possibly the smallest store in Port Huron, as you can see by this interior photo. It looks like you could stand in the store and touch both walls, but probably not the case. But you can see the fabric all laid out here very nicely for selection. And here we have pictures of both the brothers that ran the store. And we have a little advertising plug for them too as well. It says, A.L. Apple is proprietor of the largest tailor shop in the city. He is assisted by his brother, and the swell suits they turn out speaks volumes. Here's a 1900 advertisement for Apple Brothers. Could be Appel Brothers as well. I guess we'll never know. But all there is that's all. I wonder if that's where Porky Pig got his. But that's all, folks. Probably not. There's another corner store where the First National Bank was and Fox Jewelry that was located there that I didn't show in my previous video. And that was Bricker Drugstore. Remember this photo here? This was my very first video. This is the corner where Woolworths used to be. And his very first drugstore was on the corner in the 100 block on the west side. And so that would have been about where Fox Jewelry Store is, or was, I should say. I don't have a picture of the exterior, but here's a picture of the interior of a Bricker Drugstore that was on the corner in 100 block of Huron Avenue. I think this was a much smaller drugstore than the next one that he took over. Well, folks, that pretty well finishes up Huron Avenue. Let's take a peek down Quay Street here, going to the east. Now, of course, this large building on the corner was the Ballantyne building, which we looked at in a previous video. The building next to the old Ballantyne building, the one with the 3 windows here on the second floor, is the Alley Room Lounge. I think in this picture here, they were starting the renovation on their business. But in this Google photo of 2009, the Bean and Brew coffee shop was there. I don't know what's going on with those upstairs windows, but they sure don't line up. I think Google cameras were malfunctioning at that point. You can see the sky actually goes into the building. But prior to that, for many years, through the 60s, 50s, 40s, part of the 30s, was the Portrait and Credit Bureau. In the 1920s, it was a restaurant called the Rodney Tea Room. And previous to that, back in the early 1900s, it was the Wash Hotel. The building next to it has been around for a long time, probably built around the 1850s. And the bar that's there now, also almost as long as the building's been there. Originally, this was the Gaffney Sample Room, but Charles Roach purchased the sample room from Gaffney in 1905. And then became the Roach Bar, which you see today. Of course, it isn't exactly like you see today because there have been many transformations along the way. Here's what it used to look like. Well, let's take a closer look at Roach Bar. Looks like everybody and their neighbors out in front of the bar. Must be some special occasion. See the flags waving. I'm not sure if these folks are military or police. Judging from the private stripes and that one arm, I would assume military. Northwest corner of Michigan and Quay looks like this today. But in 2009, it looked like this. Cavas's Grill Restaurant has been a very popular restaurant for decades now. But before that, on this corner, there were gas stations. In the 50s, there was Lou's Golf Station, and prior to that, there was a high-speed station there. Back in the 1800s, 1885 to be exact, Castler Tin Shop was located on this corner. And here you can see some of his wares. And also a picture or two in the windows. I'm not quite sure if those are for sale or if he was just trying to decorate the place. And here we see some more examples of his wares. On the opposite side of the street, there's a couple places here that we might remember. In this location here, I remember the Unemployment Office, or technically the Michigan Employment Security Commission. Also, the ferry company was located in this area. I remember going on the ferry, and you would exit the ferry on the riverside and go through customs and then come out there on Quay Street. It appears in this photo that this building has just been built. You can see it looks like the windows and doors aren't even in it yet. Next to this building, there was a bar. It's Carl's Bar, as you can see here. Later on, it was Fidel's Bar, and next to that was 402 Club. 402 was around for a lot of years, very popular, and I never realized it before, but 402 got its name from their address, 402 Quay. Looking from the Quay Street side, we don't have a picture of the 402 Club, but this picture here is either Fidel's bar or Carl's bar. I'm not sure what year it was taken. As we look east on Quay Street, going toward the St. Clair River, this is what it looks like today. But Quay Street didn't always look like this. As you can see from this map, it makes a turn just around 4th Street. But originally it went straight, almost to the river, as you can see from this extended red line. In this map here of the 1800s, if you look closely, you can see that Quay Street today is about where Clyde Street used to be because of that turn. But what we want to look at down here is this dry dock. You see the number 15, that lagoon there that comes off the St. Clair River, that was a dry dock where they would repair ships. Ship would float in and they would pump the water out, and then they would repair it, fill it back up again, and sail it back out of the dry dock again into the St. Clair River. Here's another map showing the same dry dock. It was known by a few different names over the year. Here we see Mere, Livingston and Company Dry Dock. Also do a little shipbuilding on the side. And here we see it was Port Huron Dry Dock. But the latest owners of this dry dock was Dunford and Alversons. Here's what this brochure of 1900 says about the dry dock. Dunford and Alversons dry dock is 412 feet long, and when built was the largest in existence. This dry dock is capable of accommodating the largest boats on the Great Lakes and River. Dunford and Alversons are proprietors, and their dock is used exclusively by the largest and best boats on the lakes. The dock has every modern equipment for the convenience and comfort of its boats. The view of this dry dock shows Canada on the opposite side in the distance. In this photo you can see that the dry dock has been pumped out, and there's a couple of fellows that are working on the hull of the ship right there with a pretty big stepladder back of them. In this photo there's no ships in the dry dock, but you can see that there's water in the dry dock, so it's ready for a ship to come in. This photo here is my favorite of the dry dock. You get a really good view of it. You can see the perimeter, the wooden boards. Quite often these dry docks were actually made out of old car ferries, railroad car ferries. I don't know if this one was or not, but you can see the stairs going down for the workers to get back and forth, and here you can see the workers working on the ship. In this photo here you get a wonderful aerial view of the Black River, and then to the left of the Black River you can see the dry dock coming in off the St. Clair River there, filled with water. Not too far from the dry docks at this building here. Dry Dock Iron Works. Not sure if they had any relationship with Dunford and Alverson or not, but they may have done some of their iron work for them for repairing ships. There was also lumber companies and coal companies along Quay. Mostly you can see them from the riverside, but we'll look at those in a later video. In our next video, we'll go west off of Huron Avenue on Quay, or what used to be called River Street, and then we'll continue a little further upriver and see what there is to see there.